Get ready to dive deep into Buffalo's vibrant music scene because we're stepping inside the fabulous Flamingo Lounge for the 9th season of local music magic. In the Flamingo Lounge with Rockabilly Greg is more than just a podcast. It's a collection of stories that delves deep into the vibrant musical history of Buffalo and Western New York, creating a living archive where each story adds a unique thread to the overall narrative. This week marks the 6th session of Rockabilly to Rachmaninoff, a captivating series promising unique insights from a featured guest from the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra. New episodes in the series drop every 2 months on the second Saturday. But before we get started, I'd like to give a big shout out to our sponsors, CatsLikeUs.com, Diamond Hawk Golf Course and Pub, and valued supporter Buffalo Ironworks for helping to keep the music alive. This week's guest, Sal Andolina, is the BPO's hottest switch hitter in his permanent position of clarinetist, bass clarinetist, and saxophonist. He has been a full-time member of the BPO for the past 21 seasons. His association with the orchestra began in the late 70s when he was a standout performance major at the University at Buffalo as a full scholarship student on the clarinet. Upon completion of his degree at UB, under former BPO clarinetist James Pyne, Andolina pursued advanced clarinet studies with Stanley Hasty at the Eastman School of Music in Rochester and coaching with the legendary Benny Goodman in New York City. In addition to appearing as a soloist with the BPO, Andolina has been featured with the Rochester Philharmonic, the Grand Rapids Symphony, the Fresno Philharmonic, the Arts Nova Chamber Orchestra, and the North American New Music Festival. More significantly, Andolina has been featured on at least 15 studio recordings, including his prize CD, Like Benny to Me, a tribute to Goodman. It is my honor to welcome to the Flamingo Lounge for the 6th edition of Rockabilly to Rachmaninoff, Sal Andolina.
Oh, great to be here. This is quite a lounge.
Yeah, welcome to the Flamingo Lounge. So I'm so excited to have you down here. I've been a fan for a while. I've seen you perform live at Kleinhans, and I'm like, man, when I started this partnership with the BPO, I said, you think we could get Sal down here? And they're like, yeah, we'll work on that.
So. Well, nice. Well, thanks for asking for me. This is quite a lounge here. There's so much to look at. I'm every wall, every nook and cranny. There's something really interesting.
Yeah, and you know, I keep finding more space to find more stuff. So
yeah, I love it. Seeing Al Tinney on the wall here, and
yeah,
a lot of musicians that I know and have known and loved. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, speaking of Al, before we get into have you played with Al in the past, or? So
the thing with Al Tinney, so on the corner of Edward Street and Franklin, there was a little, it was an unused store. And then so Al Tinney on Saturdays would teach jazz. And actually, when I was at UB, one of my fellow students knew about it. He said, oh, there's this unbelievable pianist and he's teaching how to improvise. And when I tell you teach how to improvise, I mean really getting inside the theory and really making it make sense to you and how all the harmonic structures fit together.
Sure.
And that was Al Tinney. I mean, at the time, I was just like, who is this amazing genius? And then later on, you learn his history, and then you start to mumble when you meet him because you get nervous. Oh my God, Al Tinney played with Charlie Parker, and
yeah.
But how great to have had him in Buffalo, and just wonderful person, wonderful musician.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, but like I mentioned to you before we got on the air, before we get started, I like to ask everyone, did you have an aha moment when you said, man, music's what I want to do?
No, absolutely. Very clearly, I've had that. So I was actually a double major when I was in college. I asked, actually, you mentioned my teacher, Jim Pyne.
Mm-hmm.
So I had studied with him from the age of, I don't know, I was in 8th grade.
Okay.
So, but when I got, senior graduating, I asked him, hey, if you had to do it all over again, would you go into music or something else? He goes, no, I'd go into law. I said, really? I said, okay. And so I had gotten into UB as a pre-med major. And I thought, one of those. My mother was like, she wanted a doctor. And in the family, my dad just always had Sinatra records going on, Stan Getz, Paul Desmond, like all this, Charlie Parker, Coltrane. So I had these two going on. And so I had won a music scholarship, full scholarship at the time to UB. And so I was a music major and then also the pre-med. And I think it was like 33 credit hours. And it was crazy. So I did this for 2.5 years, 3 years. I'm doing organic chemistry and, did all the math. And I just, at that particular time, the orchestra, I just had heard a concert, and the clarinetist had this just gorgeous solo at the end of Night on Bald Mountain. Just beautiful. And it just, that struck me. And that a day later, at the time, they had this amazing big band over at Buff State, and it was run by Frank Halura, who was one of the trumpet players in the orchestra.
Okay.
Really talented guy, and he had this big band, and I heard them, and it just hit me. They played I think at the Student Union at Buff State, and it just like whacked me, and I thought, oh my God, they sound so incredible, and it seemed like so much fun. If I don't do that, I'd be missing something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was there. And then I'm telling you, this is crazy. So then I'm studying organic chemistry, and my eyes would get kind of watery, you know? And then I'd go over and play my clarinet. But before that, I had that moment of, geez, should I go into music or should I go into medicine? And I just looked up at the heavens and I said, would you please give me a sign? So then I'm studying organic, and my eyes are getting blurred. And I go, well, geez, I can't even read. So I went over and played the clarinet, and I'm like, I could read the music fine. I go, I better get back to studying. Back to that. And the same thing happened. And then I went back to the clarinet. I was like, okay, I can read. I went back one more time. Blurry. I said, okay, thanks for the message. I got it. So the next day I went in and, and I dropped the science courses and went in music. But I love my mother's line.
Mm-hmm.
And I had told her this. It was great because after I got a chance to play with Marvin Hamlish, over at Carnegie Hall, and he had been our pops conductor,
right? Yeah,
right. And so I played New York State of Mind. I think there was a tenor sax solo, so after that he came off. He said, "Hey, I heard you do a lot of swing things." He goes, "Can you give me some songs you do?" And then he calls me up a couple of days later. Sal, this is Marvin from New York. He goes, February 8th, Carnegie Hall, New York City Pops. So can you do it? And so I went and I played Sing, Sing, Sing on that stage.
Yeah.
There, Benny had that 1938 fantastic recording.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so this gets back to my mother because I had to say, Ma, is it okay? That I went into music? Because at the time she goes, look, don't let me influence you. You do and be whatever you want. Whatever kind of doctor's fine.
Right. Doctor of musicology.
Yeah,
right?
There you go. I tell you, to this day, actually, my mom's 94. She's like, you could still be a doctor with the doctor of saxophone or doctor of clarinet. Ma, is that a riot?
Wow.
You never grow up.
Yeah.
So.
I remember I used to work second shift, so I'd get home, a little after midnight and all that. Of course, I wasn't ready to go to bed, so it always seemed like either the Glenn Miller story was on or the Benny Goodman story was on with Steve Allen. Yeah. And there was always that part where they're doing Sing, 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 but then he does that clarinet solo, and the woman playing his potential wife, she says, looks at his mother and says, I think Benny's going to ask me to marry him. She says, he already is.
Oh, yes. Right.
It's like,
is that Donna Reed in that movie?
I think it was Donna Reed.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if it was Donna Reed in the Benny Goodman or with the Glenn Miller, because I remember it was Jimmy Stewart played Glenn Miller, but I can't remember who played his wife. It was one of those.
Right. I could see her face, but I don't know her name. Right.
But I know.
But Donna Reed, I think she was in It's a Wonderful Life. Right?
It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah.
So she was in that, but not the Glenn Miller. So,
right. Yeah. I think I have that 38 recording of Benny Goodman.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
So the best part is when this was all said and done, then they sent a recording in the mail. I get this live recording from Carnegie Hall.
Wow.
And it was amazing because it was the New York City Pops. And then they also, in addition, they had the Jazz Ambassadors. It was one of the top Army jazz band. Mm-hmm. And they had this young singer from Toronto who was just great. She was like 11 years old. It's like, don't follow any dogs or children.
Sure.
She was incredible. And then, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to think of her name. She's an incredible singer. She was on the album with Norman Connors. Yeah, it'll probably come to me now. Yeah. But right now I can't think of it.
Well, now in Sing, 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 there's that note on the clarinet that's like in the stratosphere. I mean, how do you get that note? I mean, it was always, when Benny Goodman would do it, he'd bring the house down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Artie Shaw is even more so,
Yeah.
And those two players are just so phenomenal. I'm such a fan,
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite things to do in life is just transcribing.
Hmm.
You know, you're listening to the music, right?
Sure.
And you're writing out note for note. And it's great for your brain because
Mhm.
you're seeing it, then you're interpreting it backwards because you have to write the rhythms.
Sure.
And then you're hoping with all this that you absorb it, just osmosis, and that it comes out in your own playing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing a little bit of, okay, I'm going to practice this lick over and over, get in my fingers, do it in 12 keys. And then one day it's just that it is showing itself in your natural playing. But when I go back and hear the people, there's such a purity in what they did during the swing era. And those years in the 30s, and so many beautiful ballads were written back then.
Right.
And it was a great time. Time.
Can you imagine being at the Apollo in the 30s when the Benny Goodman band was doing a swing off between the Chick Webb band? I mean, I've heard stories about that. It's like, boy, to be a fly on the wall back then would have been amazing.
Yeah, there's a Teddy Wilson book, pretty good stories about those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you think, and the funny thing was when I was growing up, I never knew swing was jazz, until probably within the last 20 years. It's like, oh, that's a form of jazz. I just thought it was swing, because I'm a rockabilly guy. So I just thought, it's like dance music, and I never knew it was a subgenre of jazz until I really started to put two and two together and do a little research. And
so if you go back, right, so there was, it really started kind of during the Civil War,
mm-hmm.
and then the instruments that the French left and New Orleans, and so things started changing up. And a lot of times it was just head music. People there weren't written arrangements, right? And there was
mm-hmm.
ragtime going on at the same time.
Right.
But then there was that crossover, that time, like an early swing, where some of these riffs and things were starting to be written down, and then you turn into the swing era, and these things are like mini symphonies.
Yeah.
They're just, they're amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The integral writing with the trumpets and the bones against the saxophones. And
right.
They cook, and it's swing. I don't know where that name came from. I know they were asking Gene Krupa in
mm-hmm.
an interview. So what do you guys call this outfit? He just said, Benny Goodman's like swing band. He just came up with that on the spot, and then it stuck. It stuck, yeah. And I know Artie did not like the name jazz. Like, what is that, jazz? But he was okay with swing. And I don't know, but if you listen to a lot of swing, or do you stay in the rock field?
I listen to it all. I mean, I like Bob Wills, Texas swing. I like the rock and roll swing, and of course, like Carl Perkins and all that stuff. I love the Benny Goodman and all the big bands. I got a lot of the big band stuff, on record down here, and I just love it. If it swings, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Right?
Yeah, I think one of the big distinctions too is whether it was a quote unquote dance band,
right?
But the Arties and the Bennies, they were not into just music for dancing. They were into really concertizing, especially Artie. He was always recreating his band. He would have a smaller group, and
mm-hmm.
then he started adding strings. He'd be dissatisfied. He'd run to Mexico and take a vacation, and then hear some things down there, and come
mm-hmm.
back and would like come up with Frenesy or Begin the Beginning, things like that. And I like William Grant Still. Do you know that name?
No.
African-American composer, wrote some classical things, but he did an incredible arrangement of Frenesy. It's something that goes back and forth between a swing feel and a straight feel. And it's beautiful.
Right.
Artie had a hit with that. He had a lot of hits in the 30s,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
number one hits, and, several number one hits in a row. And then I think he was in the top 10, top 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And then just before the war,
right.
He started to experiment a little more with different things, and then he broke up his band. When Pearl Harbor was bombed,
right.
and and then he went into the military and formed his band. Why I'm telling you these things is because we're doing a program with the BPO.
Okay,
right? It's Patriotic Pops.
Okay,
and so they asked me to do some things, and I said to the management there, swing is. That's we call it the greatest generation, but that actually is the swing generation.
Mm-hmm.
That was their music. That's what they listened to.
Right.
And that's what kept the radio through military radio. and live broadcasts. And then Artie Shaw, when Pearl Harbor happened, he folded up his band and he joined the Navy. And then they asked him, well, form a band in the Navy because we need you for morale and building. And so we do that. I mean, they were even in foxholes. There's accounts when you read about the instruments falling apart. They were held together with rubber bands.
Wow.
And there was bombing going on. They were Guadalcanal. And he, eventually he had to take a little leave. They sent him on a little break for, to the hospital because they were in it.
Right.
They were.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, amazing stories. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and from what I heard too, I mean, swing back then was kind of like rock and roll to the adults. Are like, what's this swing stuff? I mean, that was, that's too raucous for the adults at that time. And it was the kids, the younger generation that was like, nah, this is, and it seems like, and then of course rock and roll kind of replaced, that, and everything's just kind of progressed along the years. But, watching like the Ken Burns jazz thing, it's like, he really makes like, this was, the classical people. Well, you watch the Benny Goodman story, it's like you're playing Carnegie Hall and everyone was like poo-pooing. You can't play that music at Carnegie Hall. And,
that's what changed things. Changed it around. That January 1938. It was amazing. That recording too. The sound of Carnegie. It was beautiful. And then what I was really thrilled with was when they sent the recording of the New York City Pops, and when I had a chance to do it, it had that reverb in there. I'm like, wow, what a unique sound. And there's just one microphone hanging up in the middle. That's how.
No kidding.
Yeah, I was amazed at that. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, our hall here is amazing.
Sure.
And we have some, as you know, what do we have? 70 recordings now. Did they give you a count of
something?
How many?
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, with Joanna's been here, and it's just been astounding.
Yeah.
We do 2 or 3 a year, and the reviews are great. This orchestra sounds just phenomenal.
Right. Yeah. Well, I just recently had Mark Hodges down, and we were talking about him doing bolero because I said, man, that's got to be one of the toughest drum pieces to do because you start so low, but it's keeping that same beat for like 15 minutes. I mean, just on the money, and I don't know if there's any, similar piece like that, on the clarinet or the saxophone that you have to really kind of.
Well, not that where you are just playing that one pattern all the way through. Yeah, Mark is amazing. He's a machine. He really can focus in on, Yeah. So I'm just, there's so many talented people in that orchestra.
Right.
See, I don't know if when the people come down in the orchestra, that they, talk about like how they won their job or anything. It's
no one, that would be, I'd love to know how you won your job at the BPO.
Yeah, well, they referred to as musical waterboarding, because so you don't know anything about the process or.
No. Yeah. That's, you'll be the first to talk about it. So.
Well, so this was interesting because my uncle, had a barbershop on Elmwood Avenue.
Okay.
Chick's Barbershop was there forever. Elmwood and Breckenridge.
Okay.
And I remember Herm Trotter. Do you know that name?
I know of the name. Yep. Sounds familiar.
Classical music reviewer for the Buffalo News. And he had followed, we had a trombone audition, and he had followed some of the auditionees through the process.
Okay.
And then wrote a fantastic article in the newspaper. And then I heard people in the barbershop commenting about this. And I had no idea that people did not know anything about what it takes to get into an orchestra or where people are from.
Right.
First of all, they thought everybody had day gigs.
Right. Okay.
And it was just like a community orchestra, and it's not. I mean, this is people from all over. It's like the NHL or something, or NFL. People from NHL, because I guess people come from Canada and Europe, right? And do they have Soviets in the? I don't follow hockey.
I think they do, yeah.
But they
Soviets
do, right?
And Swedes, and
the
Europeans,
Swedes and that's what I thought. Okay, so people in our orchestra are from all over the planet. There's a magazine called the International Musician, and they put ads in there, and they're from all over. So you can go to Italy, you can go so. That it's open to the world. And so people send their resume in, and then they invite a certain amount of people to come in and audition. And there might be 90 candidates, and they have to listen to them. So, and they'll send you a list of the pieces that they want to hear. And actually, you mentioned Mark Hodges. I was on the committee when Mark took his audition. And that book that they got, that must have been 2 inches thick.
Wow, okay.
And they had to play everything. They had to play mallets like marimba and vibraphone, and they had to do snare, and they had to do all the low ties. They had to do timpani. It was an astounding. I don't know. Anyways, they were great, and so this audition is they give you a set of pieces, and maybe they'll give you 15 or 20 pieces, and then there's different rounds. So you'll come out, and the first round might be these 5 pieces, and then the next person comes out and plays those 5, and then so they'll cut it off maybe after 7 or 10, and then you pick who you like in that round, and then that person advances, and the rest of them like, thank you very much for coming, and have a good life. And so this goes on until then all the people who've moved on go into a second round. So then from there, it's a different set of music and whittle down again. And it could be like 3 to 4 different rounds. And finally there was like three remaining. And then you decide out of that. It's a grueling process, and it's really like winning a gold medal at the Olympics. Somebody's going to win, and it's the best person on that day, and and it's, you have to have nerves of steel, and you have to just practice like 15 hours a day, whatever that is.
Sure. Yeah,
it's crazy, and it's
Well, I would think too, because I've done some like local theater, and that auditioning is 20 times harder than actually performing.
Yes, it is.
Once you're performing, it's like, you're up here. But auditioning in front of people and going, if I get one note wrong, or if I get one line wrong, or whatever, you're out.
Yeah, and it's a very fair process the way they do it here in Buffalo. They put screens up, they put carpets, so you don't know, if it's what footwear is going across the stage. And so it's something. But so it was, that article really opened my eyes to realize that people didn't realize what it took to get in there, and that these people were from all over. Right. And it's, it is like an NFL, and there's only 26, maybe to 30-ish orchestras that are like at this level. So it's really just like one of the major sports teams. Right. So everybody in the country for sure, and even the world, are trying to get on that team. So. Yeah.
Wow. And like, how many like clarinetists are in the orchestra?
So we have 3.
3?
You have, and so we in our orchestra we have 3, like a mess of strings. You have first violin, second violins, violas, cellos, bass, right, going from high to low. And so in the winds you have flutes, you have oboes, you have clarinets, and you have bassoons, right? And so we have 3 in each section. And there's other instruments you specialize on, like in clarinet, we have a little clarinet. It's the E flat clarinet. Okay. So one of us will specialize on that. And then we also have a bass clarinet. So that's what I specialize on too. So I play clarinet, bass clarinet, and saxophone. Right. Right. And saxophone isn't really part of any orchestra requirement. It's just I happen to be a saxophone player too. Sure. And so I bring that. So now in the current atmosphere, we're doing so many pops concerts that now have sax solos and things. So I'm having a ball. Oh, great. We'll play classical one week, and then the next week I'll be able to play some, like we'll get people that have been on America's Got Talent, and so, and then they're touring, or some people from New York, and they have these arrangements, and there's all these jazz chord changes. I'm like, all right, here we go. Cool. Yeah, so that's fun. Yeah. Now you said 21 years you've been in the orchestra. No, right? Longer than that. Longer than that? Yeah, because so I actually started playing. Do you remember? I don't know if you know the history, but we had this young superstar named Michael Tilson Thomas. So when I was in college, he was a conductor here. Okay. And he did an album called Gershwin on Broadway. And so that was my first call for the Philharmonic. Okay. So I played alto sax. And then they called to play clarinet. And this was like back in 76, 77. So I was like 18, maybe even I went to college at the age of 17, right? So this was like 17, 18, 19, somewhere in there. And then one of the bass clarinetists took off for a year. And so it was Michael Tilson Thomas, when they needed to get somebody, he said, hey, let's get that young guy from what? And I was like, okay. And then actually I had never played bass clarinet before. So I spent a summer just honking away and learning it. And I don't know, do you read music at all? Or you just...
I don't read music. No.
Okay. Where there's these clefs, they write music and it could be, about 5 lines and 4 spaces?
Yep.
Okay. So there's that. And if it's on a third line, it might be a B, but then there's this other clef called bass. And if it's on the same line, that's actually not a B anymore. That's a D. It's like, I can understand why people never want to read music.
Right.
Well, in bass clarinet, it's crazy because they write it in 2 different clefs. So you have to learn to read it up a third and down an octave. So that, and the first gig I had to play on bass clarinet was, that was a great piece. It's Romeo and Juliet by Prokofiev.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did it at Art Park, and there were dancers, and who did the set? Like Picasso had done the sets,
Right.
So it was a great thing. So it was 64 pages long. So there's no, I thought, well, I could either really try to memorize like how to transpose this, or I can write it all out.
Right.
And for a couple of days, you're like, okay, I start writing out. I can't do this. So anyways, that's what I do. But the people in the orchestra that sit behind me, they're called French horns. Do you know about those?
My buddy Steve used to play French horn in high school. Yeah.
Okay. Well, they must be some kind of special genius because they have to transpose all over the place. They have to read something up a fifth, down a fourth. Though, they're doing all crazy keys.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think I'm surrounded by a lot of talented people over there, smart, talented people.
Oh gosh, yes, yeah. One of the things that I want to be able to do before I go is read music. So I'm starting to follow because I'm a vocalist.
Okay.
So I can follow it, and I've kind of gotten to a point where if you tell me what that first note is, then I'm good. But by looking at it, I can't tell what that first note is. So I got to get to that point.
Yeah, but, and that's something. But too, and I've been in, I was in all of those jazz bands. Like you had Dick Bowerly on. You said a few weeks ago. Yeah. So I play some sax on Dick Bowerly's albums, and so we had a band. Did you ever have a band called Taxi? Do you remember? Do you know Ted Reinhardt?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, they had a band called Gamelan.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know that? Okay.
Yeah, I've had George Paleo on.
Oh, well, that's who I was going to talk about.
Okay,
This is George. So we had this band called Taxi. It was the Reinhardt brothers and also Jim Kirksdorfer. Did you know Jim? He was in Spyro Gyro.
Yeah.
So Jim was in that. We had all original music written by Steve Parisi. He's a local. He writes great. And he writes great classical, but he wrote all these tunes. If you get a chance, go on and type in Ted Reinhardt, Taxi. And we have all these original tunes there. George Paleo was in the band.
Okay.
And so we used to play this stuff, but George couldn't read a note. Mm-hmm. But you played something. It didn't matter how complex it was. And he'd pick it up just like that.
Wow.
And that astounds me. I can read anything, but I don't know. That other thing is pretty astounding too.
Yeah.
You ear players,
Yeah, I know. I'm ear. That's if I hear it. And I worked with a girl who was a harpist, and I think she had studied with the harpist at the BPO years ago.
Suzanne Thomas was.
I think it was her. Yeah, and her name was Carrie Smith, and she was a great piano player, and she'd play out. And one day she looked at me. She said, I envy you. And I said, what do you mean you envy me? Because you can play by ear. Uh-huh. And, sing by ear. She says, I can't play a note unless I have the music in front of me.
Yeah.
And I says, I envy you because you can read the music, So it's like we're both. And I can't remember who I just recently had a conversation, on the same lines with, it's kind of a little bit of both, really.
Yeah.
Because I always ask the question too, when you're reading the music, how do you put the feel into it?
You just do, right? You just, and that's a whole other field too. Like there's accurate, with anybody, there's accuracy when you play, and then there's feeling and soul and what you get from it. And so you either, I don't know, as humans, so I think we're either more or less emotional. It depends. And I think some people go for accuracy and other people go for feel. I'm always more of an emotional player. I go for, I try to squeeze whatever it is and massage those notes to see what, how I can make music. And
because it's got to be hard when you're playing with a full orchestra, though, because you don't want a bunch of people just, going by feel, right? You got to kind of stay within a certain.
Well, I think the best orchestras meld all of it together, right? So like when you have a great team, for any. So you're listening to one another, you're sensitive to one another. So you're picking up on what somebody else just did, and you're tossing this. It's like a volleyball. You're tossing back and forth, or a beach ball.
Right.
And this guy hit it and he played this phrase a certain way. So then you get it and you play it that same way. And that's when it comes alive and breathes.
Right.
And so it's not just like for accuracy, but it's that other thing, not a machine. You could program the notes into a machine.
Sure.
Then you have a machine, but so that's what makes it live and real and human, right?
Yeah. And it makes me think, I think, gosh, 4 or 5 years ago, I heard a story on NPR, and they were talking about actually doing scientific studies about how and what makes music swing. What's that ingredient that takes it from the notes that just, and I've had a bunch of people tell me like slightly different things, like, slightly before the beat or slightly after the beat. And it's just.
And you're not talking about swing as in the kind of music swing. You just mean just any piece. It could be Mozart.
Right.
How do you make that
but
swing?
How do you get that extra thing to it? And they've tried to really study, and it's just. Yeah,
because it's something's not quantifiable. I think it's just in the cracks. It's one of those intangible things, but when you feel it because you get a chill.
Yeah.
You get, hey, I don't know if you're a Frank Sinatra fan or what.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those albums you sing or you go, wow. Or like Paul Desmond, when I hear him, John Coltrane. And when somebody plays like that, and to me, that is the goal. Yeah. If it goes from here, from your chest, you're so right there at the top of your rib, right in this area. I'm pointing wherever that is, right? To God. It's from here to there. And that's what it is. And when it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had the pleasure of singing with the Ladies First Jazz Band.
Okay.
And it was the same thing when I started. I was trying to be so right with the orchestra, and one of the guys, Donna Delano Kerr, was with the Buffalo Dolls, and her husband, Dan Delano, who's a great musician. He's like, dude, he says, this stuff. He says, just feel it.
Right.
He says, you're thinking too much. Just sing it.
Yeah, yeah.
He says, it. And as soon as I stopped thinking about it, that was, and it's like, and it's enjoyable for the audience when you do that. It's enjoyable for yourself.
And
then the band picks up on. It's kind of crazy how it's. Yeah. It's a team sport.
It's a team sport. Yeah, it is. And there's a lot to it. I mean, but I think, for me, if I'm going to listen to music, because I'm not one to ever have music on in the background. I just won't do it. It's not. I know some people do it all the time, no matter what they're doing. But if I'm going to listen, most of the time I'm grabbing a horn to play along with it. But I love musicians like I don't know if you know that David Sanborn. He's one of my favorites. That's so much soul there. And there's like one Michael Brecker, great tenor player, and he had amazing technique, but he also had soul. He had both. And some people just have technique,
right?
And some, I don't know. Again, to me, music is about expression. Music is, it was created by the creator for soul and emotion. That's what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that Benny Goodman piece when he's, asking his wife to marry him with music. Yeah, right. I get chills just think, because I always, when it got to that part, I would always be like, man, and it's just like, you can feel it,
Yeah, I'm sure. Was he playing Memories of You at that time, or what? I got to go back and watch that.
It was from the Carnegie Hall performance in the movie, and I can't remember exactly the name of the piece, but I can hear it in my head.
It might have been. So that was written by U.B. Blake. I'm thinking that was the song.
Okay,
but I have to go back and listen.
I'll have to see. But it's just like it's.
It was talking. It was speaking.
Yeah, it was talking. It was absolutely speaking in without words, and it's crazy stuff. But and kind of I want to go backwards a little bit. So you were able to get coached by Benny Goodman, but based on what you said, you were quite young when that happened, right?
Yeah. Well, so because you were asking about when I got in the orchestra and everything.
Right.
So that's like back on 78 when I 78, 79, I played this first full year. And then it was crazy. In the orchestra here, somebody else would actually, my teacher had given him he inherited an old gun from his father or something. It was one of these small hand pistols.
Okay.
And I don't think he knew it was loaded or something, but it actually went off, and it was a tiny, tiny bullet, but it went between these two fingers, like the ring finger and the little finger. And so he had to take a year off. He ended up coming back. Amazing. And so then I filled in there, and then somebody had a stroke, and I kept filling in full years,
right?
And at the time, I don't know if I was with a group called the Amherst Saxophone Quartet. I don't know if you ever heard of that group. Mm-hmm. We were together 20 years. We played on the Tonight Show. Okay. We used to do Carnegie Hall with Bobby Short and Stan Getz and people like that. And just toured all over for 20 years. Midwest tours, one-nighters, you drive 400 miles. So I played soprano sax in that. Okay. So I was doing that from like 78 to 98. Okay. And then, but then there was an opening in the Philharmonic, because all this time really was an opening for bass clarinet. Okay. And so that's when in 94 how many years is that? That's more like 32.
That's 32. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's that. But so on one of these trips, actually, when I was in New York, I was playing at the Bobby Short. Did you know that person? Mm-hmm. He played at the Carlisle Hotel, and he used to be on TV commercials. Charlie, I think, was the name of the perfume or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he was an impresario, and he would put on jazz concerts at Carnegie Hall for the Cool Jazz Festival. Okay. And he would have like Rosemary Clooney, Dick Hyman, Marianne McPartlin, Warren Vacher was a trumpet player. The Copacetics were tap dancers. Who else? Gregory Hines. Oh, it was amazing. Wow. So we used to one day we did this Harold Arlen tribute from Buffalo, right? Harold Arlen. Mm-hmm. And Dick Hyman wrote us some great arrangements, like Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea, and If I Only Had a Brain, and then the next year we would do something else. We did this 3 or 4 years in a row, but we became good friends with Bobby Short, who incidentally took over Leonard Bernstein's apartment. Okay. Beautiful. So he would invite us there to play house parties, things and like that too. Right. And this one time he was a member in raising money for the South Street Settlement School. And before we started talking here today, you were telling me about different fundraising efforts. Right. So Bobby Short was involved with that South Street Settlement School. And so he invited us in to play this concert for the fundraiser. And it was a real relaxed kind of setting. And where the seats were right on the same floor, it wasn't in a theater, it was just kind of in a hall. And he says, Sal, look over here. See that man there in the back to us, gray pinstripe suit? He says, that's Benny Goodman. And then all of a sudden, like on cue, Benny turns around and I'm like, oh my God, it's Benny Goodman. It's like, he's got the same face, Yeah. So we're playing and he comes over and he sat and I played and he's watching. Like he was 20 feet away. I had one eye on him and one eye on the music, sure. And he seemed to be enjoying it. So we finished, it took he comes up to me and he said, where did you learn how to play? He said, I love your sound. You play like they did in my day. Mm. And I'm like, oh, Mr. Goodman. First of all, thank you. Yeah. I said, do you ever coach other clarinet players? He said, yeah, when next time you're in town, call me. I said, I'm here tomorrow. Yeah. So I went to Padelson's. And did you ever know that store? It was behind where Carnegie Hall is, like 56th or right, and 7th or something. Yeah. And so right across from the stage door was this music store. And so I went in there, thought, oh my God, I'm going to see Benny Goodman. So I love to play duets. So I bought Bach duets, Mozart duets, whatever duet book I could find. And I thought, well, I'm going to buy a fake book. You know what that is, right? So in the past, like Tin Pan Alley, you'd have separate sheets of music. You have to buy each separate piece of paper, right? Okay. Music paper. Mm-hmm. And so the fake book, they just took the notes and the chords. And that's how they didn't have the piano accompaniment. And so they called it a fake book because you would take it on a gig and learn the tune and fake the tune, right? Okay. So I bought that and I brought it over to his house because I wanted to pick his brain. And how do you play this and how do you play that? Mm-hmm. So we spent the afternoon like out playing duets, like going through this book, this real book, and just asking him all the questions I ever want to know. But yeah, what I loved about it is like he turned around and asked me, well, what do you think of that? I'm thinking to myself, what are you asking me for? You're the king. You know it all. What do you care what I'm thinking about it? It was great. So it was a bunch of hours on that particular day. And actually, he passed away 6 months later.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I guess the moral of that story is, when it's in front of you, just you got to go for it then
Absolutely.
at the moment, right?
Yeah.
In the moment, yeah.
Yeah, good for you. So, which I'll kind of segue that into your CD, Like Benny to Me. I know you said that was a real special CD for you.
Oh, well, what I wanted to tell you is, did you know the story of it? Because,
No?
okay, so
Yeah.
there's a Buffalo tie-in. So
Okay.
did you know about QRS piano rolls?
Yes, I think I have one over there.
Do you?
A Chauncey Olcott one. Yeah, I think I have one.
Do you have a piano behind me here?
I don't have a piano, but I got the roll because I think it's When Irish Eyes Are Smiling. It's an old old one, but
okay. So QRS was on Niagara Street, like Niagara and Fargo.
okay.
And what they did was to produce piano rolls. They would have famous people like Gershwin come in, and
Okay.
like the U.B. Blakes and Scott Joplin, and they would play the piano and they would cut these rolls.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then those paper rolls, right? And I actually have a player piano,
Hmm.
so I have a bunch of these rolls. But then they updated. There was a guy, Bob Berkman. If you've
The
ever,
name sounds familiar. Yeah.
So he used to play this thing, the pianola. You put this machine on the keyboard, and it would actually be like fingers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But then, so QRS advanced into the digital age, and they came out with something remarkable. There's a CD player that you mount to the piano, and it plays that piano without paper, but also it would have speakers attached to it. So you could record, and we did. The first one I ever did was with great pianist, classical Claudia Hoka, and Arie Lipsky, who was a principal cellist at the time with the BPO. And we did Beethoven and Brahms trios,
Okay.
piano, cello, clarinet. And so if you had one of these player pianos, and they would attach it even to like a grand piano, you would hear the piano live in your living room. And then through the speakers attached to the piano, you'd hear the cello and the clarinet.
Okay.
It's like amazing, right?
Huh.
And then they wanted to do something else. And so I think the owner there asked me, I don't remember what it was. He said, what do you want to do next? And I said, why don't we do some Benny Goodman stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he said, I really can't even remember. So that's how we first did this CD. It was George Jones playing piano. That was feeding the technology to be able to play the piano. I had Mike Moser on guitar, Bill Stabell on bass, Dan Hall on drums. And so when you put this in your piano, you hear the piano, and the rest of us came out on speakers.
Right.
So when I heard it, though, I thought, wow, this sounds really good. And I just asked Bob Berkman if I can have the files, and can I just make a CD out of it?
Right.
And then that's what happened. And that's that CD. And then it took off. And since then I've had it orchestrated, and I play with a bunch of different orchestras and like Carnegie Hall there. And because of that, but the QRS and that great idea.
Yeah. Now, did you play that? Cause I saw you early 2000s, 04, 05, somewhere at Klein Hands with I think it was a quartet or a quintet doing music of Benny Goodman.
Where were we, in the Mary Seton, or were we
in the main hall?
In the main hall?
In the main hall.
Did I have a big band behind me?
I think you had a big band behind you.
Oh yeah, because then I have big band charts and everything.
Right.
So yeah, So we did something for it was Blue Cross and Blue Shield was doing something for their patrons, and so yeah, actually it sold out. Kleinhans. And then they wanted to do another one because they had enough people call in. So that was full. At the time, it was before they fixed the seats. So we had even more. And then, so another one. So that was half to 3/4 full, like a second one. So it was, that was pretty cool, I think.
Yeah,
right?
no, that was cool. I remember that because I went with my former mother-in-law and just the two of us.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah. I said, oh, yeah, I'd love to go see that. So,
yeah. So we have 5 saxes, I think 4 trombones, 4 trumpets, and drums, bass, guitar. It was pretty nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's fun to play a Kleinhans too. That's just a great acoustics in there.
Now, obviously, I've got a couple other CDs over there where you've accompanied and done some stuff with Mary Louise Nana and Michael Saviska, and you mentioned Dick Bowerly. So, I mean, how many folks have you played with on their recordings? And
yeah, a lot. And Dick Bowerly used to have the studio Select Sound,
right? Yeah,
and so he would call me in all the time to do solos on so many people's albums, like I think they had, I remember doing a Spanish album. So we had some people from either Mexico or Puerto Rico. And so we did a bunch of those. And there were so many. And then there was Crosswater Studios in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
They were doing things. And there were so many of them,
Wow.
And then big band things. I think, what was his name? Stevens. Can't think of his first name. But he did a Christmas album, and I played a bunch of solos on that. And and then with the Amherst Sax Quartet, we had a bunch, and I think I did 4 or 5 different ones with Mary Louise Nana and Arts Nova. Yeah.
Well, I'll have to get one of those Amherst CDs. So
yeah, unfortunately on my own, I only did this Benny one, but then after I did a solo clarinet one because I thought, well, I need to put something else out.
Right.
And so I did all these clarinet pieces solo, but then I brought in a guitar. We did what is it, Rose Room, and then I had the double bass player, Principal Dan Penley, and we did some more modern kind of pieces. It's an interesting CD. Steve Parisi, I was mentioning, the composer for Taxi, he had written these beautiful clarinet duets, so I just played the first line, and then I played duets with myself on there.
Right.
I did a couple of those. Yeah, it was just something you felt like, oh, this will be fun to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I never went back in the studio to do more, but you get busy, and now, of course, your orchestra's doing like 60 or 70 CDs, so you're like, okay.
Yeah. Now, currently, are you pretty much here in Buffalo? Or are you still touring around? And
no, especially after COVID. It's just there wasn't much going on, and I haven't pursued anything else. So no, I'm content just to kind of hang out here and do that.
Yeah. Now tell me a little bit more about that Pops or that patriotic, because I think that sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's fun. So the orchestra will do the traditional hymns and things. We'll have a chorus, the full chorus on stage, and then the full orchestra. And then we'll focus on the music of the swing era in the 40s and World War II. So I'm going to do Sing, Sing, Sing.
Right.
I'm going to do a couple like our Artie ones. He has this song called The Karaoke.
Okay.
It's got Lady Be Good. That was phenomenal. In the first half, like maybe Bugle Call Rag, Clarinet a la King, have Colleen Williams singing.
Okay.
She's going to do Why Don't You Do Right? Did you ever see a movie called The Stage Door Canteen?
I think I have.
Do you know what Do you know what those were? So during World War II, they had these nightclubs where you could get free food and you get drinks and you would dance. They would have dates for you that you would dance there. No alcohol, like coffees and teas. And so it would be before the soldiers shipped out. You'd have a good night, social night. And so they used to bring in entertainers, and bands like Benny Goodman would be there. So they made a movie of the one in New York, which that started it all. And I think it was in the basement of a theater group on 44th Street. And so that when they did the movie, they featured Benny Goodman doing a song called Why Don't You Do Right? And Peggy Lee was the singer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to do that number.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And then I'm going to do Memories of You. And had an arrangement. There's a wonderful jazz family in Buffalo, the Hasselbecks.
Okay.
John Hasselbeck Sr., and then John Bass Hasselbeck Jr., and then so there's John Hasselbeck III. Great trumpet player, great writer. And so I had him arrange a new arrangement for me of Memories of You. So I'm going to do that.
Right.
And so about maybe 9 tunes or something, 8 or 9 tunes. Colleen's going to sing 3.
Yeah. I was just listening to Why Don't You Do Right?
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Oh.
Now,
what made you pull that off?
It's if I'm at the computer, sometimes I'll take a break, and when I'm editing and turn on YouTube, and of course it always says, well, if you like this one, you might like this one, and then it just builds a playlist for me because of
no kidding.
What I like. So
wow! And in this Benny Goodman CD that I did, tribute to Goodman, I did Why Don't You Do Right, but just as with the quartet or quintet, but no vocals on this. Yeah, but the one that clarinets will have.
Yeah. That's such good stuff, and
Yeah.
and I've mentioned many times on the podcast. I mean, we have so many of the prolific American songbook writers that are from Buffalo here.
Yeah.
You mentioned Harold Arlen, and there's Jack Yellen and Ray Henderson and Chauncey Olcott. And, it's crazy to think about that talent, from back in those days, writing all those songs that we all know and love. And it's like, yeah, those are right from Buffalo. You know.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's. I just had. I was talking to some folks at the at the Hall of Fame, and they're like, have you heard of a band called the Yankee Six? I'm like, oh yeah, that turned into a band called the Buffalodians back in the mid 20s.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
And that's
Yeah.
Harold Arlen's first band.
Oh.
He was Harold Arluck at the time.
Yes, right.
Because before he was Harold Arlen, of course, he was Hyman Arluck to start. And they're like, oh yeah, you know it. I says, oh, I've got his records. I got the records, and I'm 78. I collect those.
We had the original name written on some of these ragtime pieces we used to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun time because we're playing that ragtime, and then the early numbers like that from the 20s, and really fun to break down the piano parts in the voicings into four saxophones, and so you're getting like the baritones playing the bass and the sopranos playing the melodies, and then the harmonies in between. Yeah, that was fun stuff.
Yeah. Now, how many other, like, one of the things, I don't know if he played with the BPO, was Leonard Pinario. I remember when we inducted him into the Hall of Fame. Great piano player. And people said at the time that he was one of two people left living who could play Gershwin like Gershwin.
Oh, is that right?
So I don't know if he ever played with that. I remember Mary Coons Goldman she came to the induction ceremony and was enthralled and ended up going, I think, out to California and was writing a book about him.
No kidding.
Doing something. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
He was amazing, and, but when you think about all the folks that have gone through the BPO also, and of course what Joanne's done with the BPO is crazy. And,
yeah, I mean, all those people, and that, I actually had my start too with at Melody Fair, and then all those performers were coming through.
Yeah.
I think now that kind of person is at the casinos, but at the time it was like Melody Fair, Gomer Pyle, and who else was like Frankie Avalon and Tom Jones, and actually even Sonny and Cher. Remember doing those shows.
Oh yeah. Oh, I grew up in Fredonia, and in the 70s, my mom and dad and their friends, they'd always come up to Melody Fair, and my mom loved Tom Jones.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
and she'd always come up, and
he was great.
Yeah.
Engelbert Humperdinck, Tom Jones.
Yeah.
Those. And then I remember we did Gypsy Rose Lee with what's it? Murder, She Wrote. Who's that?
That was Angela
Lansbury, right?
Yeah,
so she was in that at the Melody Fair theater in the round.
Yeah.
You know what else is fun too? At the reopening of Shea's Buffalo, that was actually my first professional thing. That would have been in probably 77, 76, somewhere in there, and I think I was 17. I don't know, somewhere in there. But on the opening of Shea's was Cab Calloway, and George Burns.
Oh, geez.
Wow. That was like the first show. That was like, wow.
Yeah.
This is pretty good stuff.
Right. That had to be right. That was right around because Cab Calloway was in Blues Brothers. So that was like right around that same time when he kind of had a little bit of a resurgence.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
and then you had the Mask, with was the comedian there, the Mask. And
that's
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey, yeah.
As well, he did kind of a Cab Calloway like sequence in that, right?
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Funny guy.
Yeah. Such good stuff has come through Buffalo, and I know the BPO's doing such great stuff. And now is Mark going to be playing the drums on Sing Sing Sing? I got to make sure to come see that.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not sure how the orchestra.
Okay,
but yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably. That's a great drum part. I mean,
yeah, it is. It is. But sometimes Mark might be busy with other things, so I don't know how they delegate. Back there. So yeah, because he's needed on mallets and snares and all the kind of stuff. Yeah, he was mentioning, he says, I don't have to just play one instrument. I got like, 20 or whatever. It's like, it's percussion, right? It's, you need to know all that stuff. All that stuff.
Yeah.
You have to be, disciplined and great on all of it. Yeah. Pretty incredible.
Yeah. And I know, like him, I'm sure, you keep him busy. Now, do you teach at all, or?
So I was teaching, for a while at UB, and I taught at Upstate when I was with the Amherst Sax Quartet. We were in residence at these places. I taught some in Fredonia. I think even Holton College.
Okay.
And then I did have, my own studio at home that I taught. But so right now I'm not really teaching. I have maybe like one or two students.
Okay.
And, but some of my favorite students too are adults. Like I've had cardiologists come who used to play saxophone, but always wanted to play saxophone, but then ended up being a cardiologist. And then
they went the other way, right?
Yeah, another doctor, plastic surgeon, and they're so fun to teach because they're hungry, they want to know, and they appreciate it on another level.
Right.
Like looking backwards, rather than a young person, they don't know what they don't know, but right. The older one's like, yeah, that's such great stuff. I'd really like to get inside these and understand it, so
right. Yeah.
So that's real fun.
Now, when were you down in Fredonia, at SUNY Fredonia?
Oh, let's see. That would have been, I would think, in the 90s.
Okay.
I would think, or early 2000s.
Yeah.
Who was it? The clarinet teacher there took a leave of absence. And so we filled in, the 2 or 3 of us from the orchestra here went down there and took on, because he had like a student load of 60 people, I think.
Wow. Yeah. It's my good friend Lois Urbanic Hartley, her dad Walter Hartley was a composer. And taught down
Walter
there
Hartley? Oh,
yeah.
No kidding. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That was a big name when I was growing up. Yeah.
Yeah. I did a special show on him with his family all over we did it virtually, of course, because they're all over the States. And,
okay.
her son taught, had some, Lois's son, is a musician and had some great stories about her, his grandpa, and, his wife is still around.
Yeah. He was kind of a legend, right?
Yeah.
When he was teaching in Fredonia.
Yeah. And he was, I think, I always get stories wrong, but he was doing stuff on the piano for saxophone. So he was like composing for saxophone on the piano.
Oh, yeah.
Which was crazy.
Yeah, he had done something for us, too, for the Amherst Sax Quartet. Actually, once we had this competition, a world competition for new pieces. And we had them coming in from all over. It was that, so we had to read through them. It was a great idea, but then sit and read through all of these pieces, and it was a tiring thing.
Right.
And the prize, we were talking about fundraising earlier, but we had a $5,000 prize, which was good, for a composer. And it's funny when you think back about all the things you did, and it's good.
Yeah, because I was, as I mentioned, I've tried collecting a recording from everyone who's been inducted in the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame, and I got a record from Lejar and Hiller, and Walter Hartley was on that too, and I'm like, I think I know that name.
Yeah. He taught at UB.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know the story about there was another teacher at UB? Oh God, what was his name? Jeremy Noble? You should look him up.
Yeah.
So if you looked at this guy and then you saw the Blue Meanies in the Yellow Submarine, that was him. And they wrote the song Nowhere Man.
Okay.
For him.
Oh, no kidding.
He used to be a reviewer in London, and he would always, bag the Beatles. So they wrote that song.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, that's
there's a Buffalo connection to everything.
Yeah. It's not. I those college days were fun. We had a teacher named Elliot Sharp.
Okay.
So he would put his name on the board, E, and that was last time because you didn't call him
Sharp,
E Sharp. So we used to call him F Natural.
Little music joke there, kids. Oh man. Well, you know what, Sal? We're getting to the top of the hour. I told you it goes quick.
It does go quick.
Yeah. It's been so much fun to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Again, I keep looking around this wonderful place you've got here. So it's really fun. Yeah. So thanks for having me. Really.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm like I said, I was real excited to hear that you were going to come down, and I've got the music and have seen you play, and I'm like, I got to get Sal down.
Oh,
here.
good. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. And of course, a big thanks to the BPO for helping to get all the great talent from the BPO down here and share the stories and get out. Before we go, when is that concert that you talk about? That
So it's the Patriotic Pops, and it's so they do the Friday morning coffee and donuts and tea and donuts, and it's great. People love it. So that's on May 21st.
Okay.
I think actually I'm sorry, May 22nd.
May 22nd.
And then so it'll be Friday morning and Saturday night. So it'll be the 22nd and the 23rd.
Okay. Oh, great.
Yep.
I'll have to put that on the calendar. I'd love to go see that.
Absolutely. That'd be fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
to have you there.
Oh, that'll be fun. So that's, again, Sal, I can't thank you enough for coming down. And everybody else who's tuned in, thanks for tuning in. As always, you can find the podcast where you find your podcasts at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Audible, thebuffalohive.com, YouTube, and of course, you can always find the podcast at rockabillygreg.com, where it's all about the music, and I'll have some photos and some other goodies, and hopefully I can find some YouTube videos and things of you on YouTube that we can share for everybody, and so they can find when you're playing and go check out. So I think that'll be great. So,
sounds great. Okay, thanks, Greg.
again, you're welcome. Again, thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye. In the Flamingo Lounge is made possible in part by CatsLikeUs.com, your online store for authentic vintage clothing and accessories. Buffalo Ironworks, an intimate live music venue and bar located in the Cobblestone District in downtown Buffalo. And by Diamond Hawk Golf Course and Pub, Western New York's premier golf course, restaurant, and banquet facility. At the Hawk, the bar is hopping year-round with live music every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, and some other nights, too. Tune in for a new episode every Saturday at 9 a.m. EST at rockabillygreg.com, where it's all about the music. Bark, Zoe, bark. Good girl.